Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends. It is the Michael Dukes Show, and we are ready to go on this hump day, middle of the week, downhill slide to Firearms Friday. We're ready to get into it and start talking about all the things that are important to you as Alaskans, and cover all the stories that are going on around the state. We're also going to, at some point today, I think, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the more interesting histories of governments and kind of trying to learn from history, right? Trying to learn a little bit from history, learn those lessons so that we are not doomed to repeat them. And so I'm looking forward to getting down into it today with you. I do not have any guests today. It's you and me, and we had a couple people yesterday that were in the chat room that were asking specifically for us to open up the phone lines this week because they really have some things that they want to say. And I said, why not? Because, why not? This is the largest radio show in Alaska. Footprint-wise. I don't know if it's listener-wise or not, but we do broadcast all the way down from Kodiak all the way up to Fairbanks. So I know that there is there's a few of you out there that may have a few things to say about what's happening here in the state of Alaska. And so this morning we've opened them up. We've opened up the phone lines, and we are ready to go. The number to call is 319-527-3864. If you'd like to sound off this morning, and we're gonna chat. We're gonna see what it is. What is the hot news that you, as a listener and as an Alaskan, want to discuss and talk about this morning? We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you have to say, and we're gonna leave those phone lines open all morning long. And we're going to get into it. Rick in the chat room just said, well, if it's just you and me, we are a hot mess. It's, that have you watched this show before? Of course, we're going to be a hot mess today. That's what else do you expect from a low budget radio show? That's how it is. That's how it is right now. I'm looking at all the different stories, and as we go through the session, I just expect these stories to accelerate and get crazier and just kind of more bizarre as we go through. The big news, one of I guess not the biggest news, but a big chunk of news is that there is yet another candidate in the governor's race. We're up to what? 17 now? 17 candidates in the governor's race. Now, the only saving grace on this is that I can say that it's not at least it's not another Republican. At least it's not another Republican joining the race, because, all the confusion in there. That's all we need. The latest contender for governor is Meta DeWitt. Now, You may be familiar with this name if you've been watching Alaska political circles for a hot minute, because she was uh, she was one of the major faces and organizers of the 2019 recall effort against Governor Mike Dunleavy. She was one of the most prominent voices out there, and was one of the faces of the group that was the recall Dunleavy effort. So, I mean, for most of us, that kind of tells us right off the bat where she sits from a smaller versus bigger government position, right? Because we were all on this program, excuse me, we were all on this program pretty pleased with the governor's first budget, where he had the help and the guidance of then OMB Director Donna Ardwin to try and help shave the size and scope of government down to something that was more livable. Now, we'll take you a little ways back here on this merry-go-round so you can remember exactly what happened. The minute that the governor proposed this overall budget back in 2018, 2019, the immediate thing that happened was that the entire world came to a screeching stop. We heard words like apocalyptic. We heard words like draconian. These were all things that were applied to the governor's budget, which I will remind you amounted to about an 8% decrease overall in the size and scope of the state budget. Not a 50% slashing, not a 40% slashing, not even a 20% slashing, about an 8% slashing of the overall budget, or proposed slashing, I guess I should say. And again, you thought that the governor was trying to murder puppies in the street. And very few were more vocal or vociferous than Meta DeWitt, which, of course, she was one of the leaders of this recall effort, which, by the way, eventually petered out without claiming enough signatures to actually ever get the recall effort on the ballot. Now, that may have been different if it hadn't been the COVID era. If we hadn't had the lockdowns and everything else, it may have been a different story. We just don't know, because the left, because the big government Republicans and everybody else was just so outraged that the governor could propose something like that. It very well could have happened. And of course, this led to the neutering of Governor Dunleavy, who then, from then on until till just about this year, his final year in office, his final bite at the apple, so to speak, pretty much just did nothing that controversial, I guess was the word I was looking for. He basically just, he just kind of went along to get along. I often phrase it as he kind of rolled over and wet on himself, and just, he's like a puppy that you just, he took the beating a little too hard and just kind of cowered in the corner for the remaining 7 years. And maybe that's not attractive or as accurate as it could be, but gosh, it sure feels that way a little bit, doesn't it? He did pop back up when he came back up for re-election. And again, I voted for him a second time. Not that I really wanted to, but there wasn't really much of a choice at that point. Anyway, Meta DeWitt, she is ironically the second Alaska native to file for governor. Bernadette Wilson is actually has Aleut. She's of Aleut descent. But DeWitt is a Tlingit Indian. She's an educator, a traditional healer, a community organizer. That says a lot right there. Community organizer. She is running as an undeclared rather than as a Democrat, but I think we figured that code word out. Don't you think? Don't you think we figured out the code word for independent is, well, yeah, they're just a Democrat. They just don't want to say it because then they'd be lumped in with everybody else. Yeah, so she joins the likes of Tom Begich, Matt Kleeman, and the newly minted Jonathan Christ Tompkins, who I will say right now, Jonathan Christ Tompkins has, boy, the day he announced, I think I got 3 or 4 text messages from his campaign, just like out of the blue. I mean, first things first, I thought it was him actually texting me to begin with, because that happens to me sometimes. Sometimes legislators reach out to me directly on something. And it was, the text message said, "Hey, this is Jonathan, this is JKT, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And no, I mean, that was, whoa, dude. It was and it just kept happening like 3-4 times in a single day. Anyway, so they're pushing. And so I think this really is the 17th candidate of Meta DeWitt entering the race. Is not a bad thing for those of us who are looking for smaller, more limited government, because she is just going to, I think, she's going to jump in there and muddy the waters for more of the more left-leaning vote. And the fact that she's an Alaska native is going to also impact a lot of those vote-taking points. And so this is a good way to kind of break things up in there and make a difference. She believes that Alaska's future depends on protecting the space for families to live their lives without unnecessary intrusion. She also calls for the systems to, quote, answer the citizens' not distant interests. This is, again, she's considered a long shot, but the disruptive effect on many of the Democratic candidates in there, it could be very interesting. Now, the one danger that I see in all of this is the impact that it could have with the campaign of Click Bishop. I'm unsure as of yet where that's going to leave, because Click is a Republican, but not really, right? I mean, he's a Republican, but he depends heavily on the labor unions and on that left-leaning Republican vote. And so I don't know if this benefits him or not. I'm still trying to analyze it in my mind to see where it's at. But as far as I'm concerned right now, Click is kind of the wild card on this thing. And I'm wondering where it's going to, where things are going to shake out. And we've still got time. We've still got time before the deadline for the gubernatorial race. I mean, there's 17 now. So, I mean, we could have 18, 19, we could have 20 different candidates for governor, which again also makes it problematic for fundraising, which we're going to get into here in just a minute. But I do have a phone call. I see that Miguel is on the line, and Miguel was one of the people that wanted to he'd asked me yesterday to open up the phone lines. And so we're going to get to him here as soon as we return from the break. But the phone lines are open all day today. So if there's anything that we've been talking about over the last, I guess, I don't know, how long's it been since we opened up the phone lines? A couple weeks, maybe. Maybe you just want to drive the bus today, talk about some of this stuff, how you feel about having your PFD zeroed out, or something that's going on in your community as well. I'd love to entertain that this morning. Feel free to give us a ring. 319-527-3864. Heard across the state of Alaska, it is the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we are in the break. Let's go over to the phones real quick. I just want to test it to make sure that we can hear Miguel before we come back and make sure that he's hearable. Hello, my friend. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good morning, my friend. You just hold the line and I'm going to be right back to you. Okay. Don't go anywhere. I just wanted to make sure that I could hear the sound of your dulcet tones and make sure you're all good here this morning. Let me go back over here. Donna Ardwin's in the chat room. Man, you speak of her, just say her name and she appears. It's amazing. She is amazing. You know, I mean, it was such a, I mean, I'm not here to stroke Donna's ego because she already knows how good she is, but you know, we had this opportunity and it was such a great opportunity to grab this bull by the horns. And what I mean by the bull, I mean the destiny, the direction that the state was going. And you know, we had this opportunity and we just squandered it. Not only squandered it, but we shot ourselves. Conservatives shot ourselves in the foot over this. You know, the ousting of Babcock and the intro of Ben Stevens and then this and then the way she was fired. And come on, man. Come on, camera. Get your act together. I mean, all that. It was just so, oh, man. It is just so crazy that we had this opportunity and it just, you know, we just pissed it away. We absolutely threw away a golden opportunity. And then everybody pointed the fingers at each other. And here we are. Right? I mean, here we are 8 years later. We could have had a handle on this the whole time. And God love Mike Dunleavy, but he could have stood tall. He could have stood tall. He could have taken a stand, but instead, again, he just kind of rolled over and wet on himself and just like, don't smack me again. I'll be quiet. Just don't smack me again. I mean, Jesus, just be a one-term governor. Yeah, I don't care. Be a 2-year governor and get recalled, but at least fix the problem, right? All right. Good morning. Good morning, Lisa up at Nikolaevsk. Yeah, it's hard to call 8% a slashing. It is. And, you know, if Donna's still in here, I don't know, this was she was 6:15, so it's 10 minutes ago that Donna was in here. But if Donna wanted to comment in the chat room on that any closer, that'd be fine. But yeah, it's hard to call 8% a slashing. You know, when it was all said and done, if I recall correctly, when it was all said and done, the budget was actually higher. We never actually cut anything. That was the worst part. That's the worst part. Absolutely. Chris or Charlie says Dunleavy's problem is he's such a big guy he has never had to fight. He doesn't know how. That may be partially true. You know. Donna is in the chat room. Goodness gracious. Let's see. There's plenty of money to raise outside, said Frank. And there is a bunch of money being used. We're going to go over some of these numbers, but I just saw Adam Crumb's numbers. He's raised a surprising amount of money. 60% of it from inside the state, which means 40% of it was raised outside the state. I don't know, let's see. The only problem with conservative legislators, says Frank, is their butts. Yeah. All right. I'm still scrolling through here. Snowpocalypse. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Yep. Once he hit a feeling of resistance, Dunleavy could not fold fast enough, says Chris. I can't disagree with that. I can't disagree with that.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay, we got Miguel on the line. Before I forgot to do, I'm sorry, Miguel, just one more second. There is a winter storm warning in effect for the Fairbanks North Star Borough and the Denali Borough. In Fairbanks, total accumulation of up to 10 inches. That is until from now until 7 a.m. on Friday. So heavy snow expected, Central Interior, Chattanooga River, Fairbanks Metro, Goldstream Valley, Nenana, Two Rivers, Upper Chena, pretty much the whole area. Travel could be difficult. Hazardous conditions could impact the Wednesday morning and evening commutes, but this goes all the way until 7 a.m. on Friday. In the Denali Borough, they're getting up to 12 inches, plus gusting winds as high as 35 miles an hour. Winds may be stronger at times through Windy Pass, which is probably why they call it Windy Pass, with potential gusts around 50 miles an hour. And they got some other winter storm warnings for Nome and the North Slope and other places. But for people who are listening to the sound of my voice in Fairbanks and in the Denali Borough, snow, and more snow. Currently, 27 degrees here at the on top of the world here in Homer, Alaska. And I can't say that I'm hating it. I can't say that I am hating it. It was bright and sunshiny and beautiful yesterday. And can't say it doesn't suck. There you go. Or can't say it does, or you know what I mean. Let's go over to the phones. Miguel's been holding for a while here, and we appreciate his patience. Let's see what he has to say. 319-527-3864. Good morning, Miguel.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
It's again, it's not Fairbanks and it's not 30 below. It's not snowing. I mean, what more could a guy ask for?
Yeah, I love Fairbanks. Small town, no malls, no people. Gotta love it. No, I just want to say, they want to talk about today's elections have consequences, especially here in our local Fairbanks North Star Borough. Elections have consequences. I think last year local turnout was like 14.5% or something like that. And then I talking to a lot of amazing people in our community. Everybody's upset about their tax assessment. Did you vote? No. Did you vote? No. Try to explain to them that one vote could make a difference, even, and they're registered to vote. And a lot of people, it seems like they just give it up. They're like, oh, nothing's gonna happen anyway. And I'm like, no, you can't become complacent.
Yeah, no, it's a truth. I mean, I watched it, Miguel, when I I was in my final month of being on the assembly when I left Fairbanks, right? I mean, it was that 30-day window right before the election when I left. So I was basically in the assembly right up to the point to where I left Fairbanks. And I watched what was going on in that assembly in the 5 years that I was on the assembly. I watched it change. I watched it change from a pretty fair and balanced, equally balanced assembly with conservatives and progressives, kind of it was always a tug of war. It was always a give and take. But by the time I left, it was mostly blue. It was me and one other guy against everybody else on the assembly. And there's been a bit of a tug of war back and forth over the last, a couple of years ago. It got kind of balanced again. It was 4-5 or 5-4. And now we're back again to the, 2 to 7 or, whatever, with only 2 assembly members on there who are, anywhere near conservative. And I would agree. Elections have consequences. And what do we got now? We've got a mayor who's seriously progressive, who wants to expand the size and scope of government, who wants to bust the tax cap, who's working with the Alaska Center for the Environment on working on the comp plan, who wants to claw back 33 million or, $20 million from the school district and use it for a $33 million puppy palace. We got all these people that have been on the, I mean, you're 100% right. And I don't know if people in Fairbanks are just not paying attention or if they're just tired and exhausted of dealing with it. Because Miguel, it's exhausting, right, to have to watch this.
Yes, it is very exhausting. And when I talk to people, I'm like, you have to believe in this. I know a lot of people don't trust the voting machines and this and that. I said, that's what we have right now. So please go and vote. You're registered to vote. Go make a difference. I go, again, we're in the tax cap year. We want to keep the tax cap. We want to keep Donna Gilbert's legacy alive. We need to vote to keep the tax cap this year. We need, more. I understand everybody's working. Everybody's got a job. It's hard for people to, testify, send emails during the day, even with this stuff going on in the session in the state. And a lot of people would prefer that testimony would be given at night, at least at the state level, instead of getting messages saying, well, you can email. Well, a lot of people work and they would love to testify, but in the evening. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, elections have consequences. I just want to encourage people to vote. And just so you know, Mike, yes, I have lost my mind again. I am going for it again this year for the assembly. So,
man, you are a glutton for punishment. I mean, you are an absolute glutton for punishment. But good for you. I mean, good for you. You know what? Look, I had to do it. I had to do it at one point. And I mean, not only did I fill the seat that was vacant, then I ran for re-election again. But if I had stayed in Fairbanks, I'm doubtful that I would have run for re-election a third time, But yeah, it's a look, you've got to participate. And the problem, and this goes back to what I think you and I have talked about in the past, Miguel. It goes back to the fact that people are so focused on what's happening out in Washington, D.C. and the lower 48 and around the world, and they're so stirred up by things that are going on, Minneapolis, whatever the big story of the day is. But they could not name all the members of their assembly. They could not name every member of their city council. They could not tell you what is up on the agenda coming up in the next month at their city councils or their borough assemblies. But they could damn well tell you every member of Congress who's going to be voting and what they want or what the big bill is or whatever else. They're just not paying attention to what's going on locally. And unfortunately, the progressives have figured out that that's how you make things work better, is you capture things at the lowest level.
Yep. And a lot of people have forgotten everything starts right here locally. Like you said, Mike, everybody could tell you about the SAVE Act that's going on in Washington, D.C. and what's going on with the voting and the SAVE Act and fixing the elections and voting. But locally, I expected to see, I know there was a lot of emails, but I expected to see a lot more maybe in-person testimony about the animal shelter /
oh yeah,
puppy palace.
I was shocked. I saw pictures of the of the chamber there where the testify. There was like 10 people there. I'm like, I have seen that room packed out over dumber things. And yet what the people were they just frustrated because they've already voted it down once and they just don't want to be bothered to go back down there again? So they just spent $33 million. I don't know if you
a lot of people
go ahead.
Sorry. Or a lot of people just thought, hey, no matter what I say, they're just going to vote for it anyway. So what's the difference? The difference is your voice is on record saying, not that we don't love our animals, our dogs and our cats, but
of course
it seemed like, we have over $270-300 million in deferred maintenance, and you let this one. It seemed like a lot of people thought, speaking in the community, that this building was purposely seen to be doomed.
Yeah.
so they can get
Yeah.
what they want.
Well, I mean, again,
So,
I'm starting to believe, Miguel, now you're getting me on deferred maintenance, but I mean, look, I'm starting to believe that some of that might be intentional, that they're starting to,
yeah,
or that not maybe they're starting to, but they have been over the last, decade or so, they've been almost intentionally deferring the maintenance so that the facilities, the various facilities, get wound down and ground down into the point to where you got to knock them down and build them up again. That makes more sense
well, yeah,
because they get to spend more money.
yeah. Assemblywoman Wilson, she brought to light that it's just for the building, not for utilities or anything. It's just going to cost us over $1,800 a day just for the building, and they want to construct it with a flat roof in Fairbanks, a flat roof.
Oh yeah,
with the weather we have and the snow. And then, Assemblyman Roderman, he brought to the point, he claimed that, is this going to cost more than $33 million? They told him no. How do you expect it not to be no? There's going to be change orders. There's going to be something that happens.
Come on, it's a government contract. You're telling me there's not going to be any overruns? There's not going to be. And $33 million for a facility. I mean, again, it just doesn't make any sense. But don't worry, Guttenberg says now is the time for Fairbanksans to show that they really care about the animals.
Oh, and that gentleman, he blamed the assemblies beforehand for not taking care of the building. That was in the one of his final comments that night, that he blamed assemblies of the past for letting this building get to the way it was.
Yeah, of course, it's somebody else's problem, not his. But again, it's all working as intended, Miguel. It's working as intended. What would you say? We got about a minute here. What would you say to your fellow Fairbanksans to encourage them to not grow weary in well-doing? What would you say to them to get them off their rusty dusties and to get out the door and to participate? What's your exhortation to them, my friend?
I would just tell them we must all have a common cause for the common good, not become complacent. We're slowly, but we don't want to become Anchorage, because that's get out your vote. Your voice does make a difference. We have to not become complacent. We have to keep fighting for our way of life. Limited government, live within our means. Nobody's going to be able to please everybody, but like you said, assemblies of the past, they were more of a common denominator there between the two to get a lot more done. So I'll just, keep reminding everybody, there is a common cause for the common good. We have to keep our way of life.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, a lot of these town hall meetings happen with our state representatives. They're not very filled up. And like this Saturday, we have a town hall meeting with Representative Sapp, Representative Dybert, and Senator Kawasaki. They're going to be in Fairbanks this weekend from 5 to 7 p.m. At the Morrison Townsend Culture and Visitor Center. People need to come out, speak their mind. Especially with the senator trying to propose protecting librarians from, distributing pornography to minors. I think that's very wrong, but come out and hear your voice. But that's what I would tell them. Me, Mike, we've talked for a while. I'm a retired combat vet, and I just think retirees in the community, you need to give back as well to the community in one form or another, poll watching, counting the votes, whatever it may take. I think as a retiree in this community, one should give back.
Yeah, well,
so
I appreciate your effort, my friend. Appreciate your service, and I appreciate you not growing weary and well-doing, even though I think you're a little nuts. But I mean, somebody's got to do it, and I hope that you get more support this go around than we did before. I mean, we've got to get engaged. We've got to get engaged. We cannot have a 17% voter turnout. We can't have, what was the one voter? Was it 12% this last election in one of the communities? I can't remember which one now. But I mean, you cannot have a 12% voter turnout and expect that things are going to turn out okay. All right. I'm sorry, you just can't. So, and
I agree with you, Mike.
And
I appreciate the support. Let me come on the air and speak.
I appreciate you calling in. Thanks, Miguel. Appreciate you listening today. Now the phone lines are open. If you want to agree with Miguel or disagree with Miguel or me or whoever, 319-527-3864. I'd like to hear from you guys. I mean, how do you guys feel about things like the Puppy Palace, right? If you're listening and you're one of those people that is just so frustrated, you just kind of thrown your hands up in the air and you just stumbled across this radio show and you're like, yeah, I'm just not even going to. I just tell me why. Tell me what you expect to happen in your community if you just throw your hands up in the air. Or tell me what would have to change for you to want to get engaged again. I really want to figure out how we get more folks in. What's it going to take to get more normal folks engaged in the process? And you don't have to be from Fairbanks to call in. You can call in from anywhere in the state. 319-527-3864. The Michael Duke Show continues. You're home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Don't forget, you can always join us in the chat room. Chat room is up and available. It's just you, me, and 60 of our closest friends on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Come on out and join us. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break right now. We've got one line on hold. Oh, see, Charlie's in the on hold. Hey, Charlie, hold the line there, my friend. We'll be back to you here in just a second. Meanwhile, David, I'm starting to believe it. You know, there used to be, and I know that he still listens because he called in a few months ago, maybe. There's a listener in Fairbanks. His name was Hillbilly. That's what he called himself. It's the moniker that he went by, Hillbilly. And he used to say, I mean, this is back in the day before I left Fairbanks. He used to say he had a button. In fact, he gave me the button. I still have it somewhere in a box of stuff, but it was a button that said, they're all in it together and they're doing it on purpose. That was what the button said. And, you know, when I first got the button, I thought, well, that's kind of a pessimistic viewpoint and maybe a little paranoid. You know, maybe a paranoid, pessimistic viewpoint. But the more that I look at it, the more that I look at things that are going on, the more I realize that he was right. Right? In so many different things. I mean, again, talking about the deferred maintenance aspect. You know, I used to think that it was just greed. I used to think that it was just carelessness. I used to think that it was just, you know, it was a priority problem, prioritization problem. But the more that I look at it, the more I'm realizing that it is on purpose. That they're doing that intentionally, that they're pushing all the deferred maintenance off and everything else because they want the buildings to be run down so that then they have a justification to tear it down and build a new one, because it's not sexy to repair a roof or to pay to upgrade a building, but it's definitely sexy and can, as as Rob Myers talks about, as far as the you know, the structure and the stimulus of what's going on, it's what gets you reelected when you get an extra $20 or $30 million for your community to build a new facility, because then you employ a whole bunch of people and you get new stuff. And that's the sexy thing that gets you reelected. Replacing the roof or pulling the carpets out or upgrading the electrical system in a 25-year-old building, not sexy. I mean, still necessary if you want to keep it rolling. But see, that's the point. Do they really want to keep it, or would they rather knock it down and build something all new? They're all in it together and they're doing it on purpose. Barbara Haney says, oh yeah, it's intentional. That the pushing off of the deferred maintenance and totally intentional. Also, they're all in it together and they're doing it on purpose. But David said that's exactly what the left wants. People to give up. To give up. They win, you lose. Because if there's one thing that progressives are very good at, it is the kumbaya, work as a communal entity, organism, doing things together. It takes a village. That's part of their mindset and their philosophy. Whereas people who are on the more conservative side of things, they are very much the rugged individual. If you show me somebody who's a rugged individualist in all their actions and their behavior, I will tell you that more than likely, with probably a 90% accuracy, those people are probably more conservative in their beliefs, especially fiscally conservative. Whereas people who are more communal and kumbaya and everybody should have a crust of bread and we should put shelter. I can tell you again with a 90% certainty that they are probably very communalistic, very progressive in their beliefs. But yeah, David's right. David is right. That's exactly what the lefts want. They want to wear you down. What was the thing that, what's the old Latin, the old Latin illegitimi non corruptum, basically don't let the bastards grind you down. I mean, this has been going on this has been going on so long that, I mean, ancient Rome had this saying, illegitimi non carborundum. Don't let the bastards grind you down. That sentiment has been around for an age. All right. We're about ready to rejoin. Charlie's on the line. We're going to start off with Charlie. And we'll see what you guys have to say as well. Phone lines are open, 319-527-3864.
Today's recipe is the important Alaskan news of the day with a dash of sardonic smile, a pinch of eye twinkle, not that you can see that on the radio, and a touch of acidity. It goes down easier like that. Don't question our recipes. The Michael Duke Show.
All right, we're back. Sorry, I'm the worst. I am the worst radio show host in history. Amy just was asking about her 6 o'clock club mug that she won from the holiday recipe contest. And I'm just telling her that, yes, it's in a box on my desk. I finally got it wrapped and packed and put in a box. And I'm hoping to send it out to the post office today or tomorrow. So fingers crossed, Amy. I get my poop in a group to get it out there. It is coming. It's already set aside. It's all ready to go. But I am going to send it. This is what happens again. A low budget radio show, folks. One guy doing it all. Not that it's an excuse. I'm just explaining it to you. This is just me doing my thing. All right. I'm trying to do it. All right. Let's go over to the phone lines, which are open right now. 319-527-3864. Charlie's on the line. Let's see what Charlie has to say. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. I'm doing very well, and I wanted to say that you are not a bad radio host. You're an excellent radio host. You do a job that lots of other people don't want to do, is get out there and talk about issues that we need to talk about. And I want to piggyback on your comments you made just a few minutes ago about getting worn down and ground down and people giving up, and we cannot allow that to happen. I don't know whether you had an opportunity to listen to Secretary Rubio's comments in Munich the other day, but he made that statement essentially to all of Europe and to the world that the United States is not going to sit back and watch Western civilization be done away with because we do nothing. And I think the same thing applies to our state, that we cannot sit back idly and allow the progressives to take over our state and to turn things into the craziness that we see being pushed around in so many communities in so many different ways, whether it's, I'm not even get onto the list. You know the list of all the stuff that's going on.
Sure.
But let me say this, that if you want to get involved and make a difference and try. It's all we can do is try and do our best. I would suggest get out your pencil and write down on your calendar right now on the 28th of March. Now, this is out a pretty good way. Saturday, 28th of March, the District 6 Alaska Republican Party is having our district convention. It'll be your opportunity, if you're a registered Republican, to come out, get involved in looking at our platform and making any kind of changes you want to make to the platform or recommend we make to the platform, looking at our party rules and changes we might need to make to those, and hear from some of the Republican gubernatorial candidates that we've got lined up. We have several lined up to come and speak already. We have Congressman Begich who's going to speak to us. And so it's a great opportunity to come out and meet other conservatives and help us try to set a better path for the future of Alaska. So that's going to be March 28th, Saturday at Land's End here in Homer.
All right. Well, that's great news, Charlie. You guys are taking it. Now, let me ask you this, because I know you've been engaged in the local stuff for a long time, and you're right. I think that sometimes there is a feeling, or there is a that people are just, they're tired, they're ground down, they feel like they've been fighting this their whole lives, and I don't know how. I know how I counteract it in my own mind, because I felt it. Trust me, I've been doing this for 3 decades. I definitely feel the downward pressure. But I mean, how would you, as a guy who's been engaged for umpteen years, how would you encourage people who are so just frazzled that they just threw their hands up and walked away and said, I'm not participating in this madness anymore? What's Charlie's exhortation to the people? Same thing I asked Miguel. What would you say to people to get them back and engaged again at the local level? I mean, it's all great that Rubio talked and did all this national stuff, and that's great. No, I didn't listen to it because you know what? I don't care. I'm paying attention to what's going on in the state. And I think that's part of the problem, is that we get so divided in watching what's happening everywhere else. But what would you say to people in the state who've stopped even caring about things going on at their local level?
I don't think that I simply, personally, I cannot sit back and just allow myself to be beaten down like that. I have to try. I may not be able to make much of a difference, but the best I can do is try. I was in the Army for 25, almost 26 years, and it reminds me of the story of the young fellow that the commander asked if he could take on a task, and he said, "I will do my best, sir. I will try." And that's all we can do, is try. And you can't let the SOBs win. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, that was what I was just reminding people during the break, that there's that old Latin saying that says "illegitimi non carborundum," which means basically don't let the bastards grind you down. Which just goes to show you that even back in ancient Rome, this was taking place, right? That people were just like, whoa, but anyway, I appreciate you, Charlie. Thank you for calling in and joining us. We appreciate you being part of it today. Thanks so much. All right, we got another call coming in. This one says Nome, but I don't know if that's true or not. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Mike. I'm calling from Fairbanks.
Hello, Mike. What's on your mind, my friend?
So all these elections, all the stuff that goes on with government is more or less about unions, union members, union families, and all those people vote, and they now outnumber us. I think. There's so much government between city, borough, state, and federal that union members, government workers outnumber us. And when they go to vote, they're voting for people who will continue to give union members money. So I'm going to make a statement that union contracts do not respond to inflation. They cause inflation in the state of Alaska.
I would agree that definitely, and this goes back to the old, I can't remember if it was Destarte or Torqueville or whoever it was. It's basically said, woe be unto the republic when they figure out they can vote themselves largesse out of the treasury. And when you've got 45% of the working force in the state of Alaska who are working for government at one level or another, that's a pretty big voting block, That's a pretty big voting block. They're never going to vote themselves a pay cut. They're always going to vote for the pay increase. And I think you're right. I think we're reaching that point to where there's the balance is tipping in the other direction, where they're always going to vote for, they're always going to vote for their pocketbooks, which is human nature. But when half the people are working for government, it's hard to vote for your pocketbooks to close down the size and scope of what it eventually leads to is it leads to an elimination of the middle class, because they'll get squeezed out and they'll just leave because we're still free to travel in this country. Right. And then we'll have a problem later on. Mike, again, asking the same question that I asked Miguel and I asked Charlie, what would you say to people who are frustrated? What's your thought on this? We got a minute.
Well, the most important thing you can do is vote. And I think that conservatives and people that are frustrated are apathetic and they don't turn out and vote. And that was real evident in this last borough election where we didn't get a lot of turnout. But so we're expecting a little better turnout now for this next election, because there'll be state election and then another borough election, and hopefully we'll get more turnout. But people that are fed up, people that are unhappy with too much government money, you need to vote. That's the best thing you can do.
Absolutely. Mike, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it. That leaves all the lines open at 319-527-3864. We'll be back with more in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Okay, all the lines are up if you guys want to call in. Sourdough Steel says, I'm one of those people who are just fed up and want to leave. I do show up to vote and I am engaged. The problem is no one will put up a candidate that I actually want to support. Might I dare I suggest, Sourdough, that maybe you're the candidate that other people might want to support? I know, right? That's what got me involved. I was looking around and there was nobody stepping up. And I was like, well, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? Right? That's what got Ron Gillum going. He listened to me say that one time and decided to throw his hat in the ring. I mean, that was madness. But maybe you're the guy. Maybe you're the candidate that people could actually show up and support. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I'm a 30-something family guy. No one wants to back me. Well, I was let's see. I'm doing the math now. Excuse me while I do the math. I was an early 40-something guy that nobody, I was an early 40-something family guy that no one, but I mean, look at the people who are on the assembly now. Sourdough. There's been plenty of young people who have been on the assembly in the past. Aaron Lejeski, Lance Roberts was on there. I know Natalie Howard was on there when she was in her early 30s. I mean, it was the thing. Yeah, Rob Myers is a 30-something family guy too. I mean, maybe that's what people identify with. The fact that you're a 30-something family guy, working age, just part of the working class, maybe that's what they identify with instead of a former legislator or union employee or retired teacher or whatever else that the assembly is made up of. Maybe you're the guy that people could get behind. That's I don't know. Again, Rob Myers, I was a 30-something family guy too. And so while I hear you, I'm one of the people who are fed up and just want to leave. I do show up to vote. I'm engaged. No one puts up a candidate I actually want to support. Maybe that's your sign that you're the guy maybe that should go up there and do it. Now, I'll warn you, it's an exercise in frustration. If you think being on the outside looking in is frustrating, wait till you're on the inside looking out trying to fight it. It is challenging. I'm not here to soft sell you on it and tell you that you're going to go in there and change the world. Now, if there were 5 or 6 of you who all got frustrated at the same time and all went in there and did it, that's a whole different deal. That's a whole different deal. But remember, it's people like you who end up making a difference. Brian just asked, how old was Ted Stevens or Don Young? We seem to like old bearded guys. Well, I will remind you that both Ted Stevens and Don Young were pretty young when they got into those positions, right? Don Young was in there for what, 44 years? So he was like 35, 38 when he got into office. Ted Stevens also pretty young. I mean, look at the legislature. A lot of those guys have been there for 20 or 30 years. Neil Foster, that guy's been in there for what, 16 years? He looks like a 12-year-old. They got in young. Scott Kawasaki, he was 22, I think, when Kawasaki first got in office. I'm not saying that you need to be there forever. I'm just saying don't let your age, don't let your age be the hang-up, because maybe that's what people are looking for. Maybe they're looking for something fresh and okay. So that was problematic. I just lost the audio, but now we're back. Sorry about that. Lost the audio for a second, but now we're back. You can try calling again, Barbara. Let me fix this here, and I'll restart the phones.
Goodbye.
And we'll get started again here. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share,
Thanks
subscribe,
so much for
and ring the bell. Let's get to it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Oh.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access.
Welcome to the party, pal.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator. We just, man, it was great. I had a technical glitch and the audio crashed there right at the top of the hour. Thank goodness at the top of the hour. But we're back. We're ready to go, and we are continuing on the Michael Dukes Show, Wednesday edition of the show. We got some stories to talk about, but I've been opening up the phone lines because I want to hear what you guys have to say, because, I mean, I, like you, am frustrated, right? I'm frustrated with all the behavior and everything else, and it is frustrating. And the question is, how do we fix it? How do we get people more engaged when they just want to throw their hands up in the air and walk away? That's the big question. Before we get into it, and I know I've got Barbara on the phones right now. Barbara's on the line. The phone lines are open, by the way, 319-527-3864. It's open line, open forum today. We could talk about whatever you want to talk about. I do have to mention that there's a winter storm warning in effect for both the Fairbanks and Denali boroughs. Heavy snow, 6 to 10 inches in Fairbanks, all throughout the area until 7 a.m. on Friday. Out in Denali, we're going to have a couple days of this, just FYI. So just do your thing, do your things out there. All right, Barbara is on the line. Let's get Barbara in the chat here and see what she has to say this morning. Hopefully it's all working properly. Good morning, Barbara. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine.
Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to kind of alert people to this whole comprehensive plan thing. It's not just in Fairbanks. Several other boroughs also have this process going on at the present. The comprehensive plan is a very big deal because it is the legal document by which all future actions will be judged, as far as taxing, land use, all that stuff. In Fairbanks in particular, the borough mayor actually had a workshop with the Alaska Center and the Climate Coalition because they want to get through all these climate change mandates, all these kind of things, like the things that I fought basically when I first got on assembly. So I want to encourage everybody to make comments. And you could say, well, they don't really care, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you, the public comment matters, and those can be FOIA'd, and they can be proven in a particular way. If they say, well, the public supports XYZ, you can FOIA the public comments and say, no, that's not what the public comment said. So things can be challenged later based on the public comment that's submitted. So if you want to do anything to fight against some of the more radical land use regulations, this is when you do it. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the rule of three. When you're on, and you find this out, Michael, as you well know, when you're actually in office, right? They have this rule of three. They'll put it up the first time, they'll have the resistance. The second time, the resistance dwindles. The third time, they go ahead and pass it. But the key is if they see that the momentum is against them, and this is what I learned when we were doing, they tried to do mail-in voting here. if they see that the momentum is against them, they will drop it. They'll go, whoa, that was a bridge too far.
Right.
So the key isn't just to say no the first time, it's to build the momentum on the second and third time.
Right.
To push back.
Well, Barbara, you were on the assembly when this Puppy Palace thing came up originally, right? And this is my question. And I'll be honest, I wasn't listening to the meeting. I didn't pay attention to the meeting. But my question was, because I've worked with Jill Dolan, she was the assistant borough attorney when I was on the assembly. And she did host some of the meetings when Renee Broker was not there. And she was very bullish on making sure things weren't dilatory. And so my question to you was, how was this not ruled a dilatory action since it had just came up? It was like last year, right? It came up. It was shot down last year. How is this being brought up again, not a dilatory action?
Well, and I think, in my opinion, you're correct. But I'm sure they've got the goods somewhere to show that it's not, because they'll just manipulate the rules in whatever way they want to. The reality is, in 2017, this was voted down by the voters. They tried to bring it back in 2020. It got pushed back. They brought it back in, I think, 23. When they tried to do the special election, what they did is they funded the Puppy Palace, and then they said, oh, we don't have money for the schools. Well, you had the money for the schools. You funded the animal shelter. That's why you don't have the money for the schools. And then they found extra money. Oh, magically. Okay. And then in last year's budget, I got that stuff frozen. We put it in the out years and we froze the money. Well, it hasn't even been a year, of course. And they brought it in from the out years and they funded it. It's a travesty.
Yeah, it is a travesty. And again, it leads to what I was just talking about. It leads to the frustration of the public to say, why should I even bother? They're not listening. They're not paying attention to what we said. How many times do we have to say no for them to pay attention to it? All of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I think now it's the time to show people that we care about animals. Or now I had 55 to 35 people say that they wanted it. So that's a majority. So that's why I'm going to vote that way. I mean, what do you say to people? What do you, Barbara Haney, say to people when they're like, I'm done. I'm not playing in this pool anymore because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I vote. What's your words to them to get them re-engaged in the battle?
You have to care, because if you don't care, they'll take away your freedom. When you quit caring about the legislature, they took your PFD. If you quit caring about the borough, what are they going to take? Your land.
Yeah.
Or at least your ability to use it.
Right.
You have to get engaged, or you will have nothing, and they will expect you to be happy about it.
Oh,
You have to. This is it. This is freedom's last stand, people. This is it. This is freedom's last stand.
Yeah. Well, it's something that we cannot stop fighting it. Yes, it's exhausting. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's just, I mean, it's infuriating, not frustrating. For me, it's infuriating. I get angry. And maybe that's the difference. Maybe it's the difference between anger and frustration. You have to get angry about it because they are trying to take it. I mean, if I have one thing that I can stand proudly about in all the time that I spent on the assembly, which I often joke was a waste of my time. It wasn't a waste of my time. It was ultimate frustration. But the two things that I feel like I came away with in all that was, one, I was able to battle and get the grandfather property rights in. And two, I was able to help the road service areas take back some of their own manifest destiny away from the borough, because the borough was slowly but surely usurping the power of the road service areas. Now, I don't know.
And that's happening again.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I feel like I did a good turn. Those are my two things that I could stand back and go, I did those things. They were good. But again, somebody else has got to stand up and take up the baton and move forward. Because like you said, it's a constant battle.
Absolutely. And you can't, you can say, well, we got Tammy and Brett in there. Okay. They're 2 votes. You have to get in there and you have to do the advocacy work. You have to show up and do the testimony. And believe me, it does make a difference, especially if they see that more people are coming the next time and less.
Yeah.
So it does make a difference. In fact, when I was on the assembly, I was able to win some major battles through that public advocacy. It did make a difference.
Oh yeah, when you've
So
got a
please,
room,
don't think it doesn't.
yeah, no, you've got a room of people who are out there and they could be motivated or angry, one of the two. But if you've got a room full of people, you could see the looks on assembly members' faces trying to decide whether they should vote for it or not. It does make a difference when there is a room, when the room is packed and the testimony takes 3 hours, you know that it's something that is going to sway their opinion one way or the other. I've seen it happen. So you're 100%
Oh yeah,
right.
you got to wear them down instead of letting them wear you down. You wear them down, because let me tell you, when you've got to stay every time to 1, 2 in the morning on public testimony, it gets to the assembly members. It really does. It didn't me. I was retired, but it did to the others. Okay, because they have to get up and work the next day. They have to get up the next day and chase kids, whatever. They
Yep.
got to perform in whatever other part of their life they performed in.
Yeah.
So it does wear on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, the key is to keep at them. You build the momentum. You wear them down. You flip the script. And when it comes to anything with a public comment, boy, you make sure you give them the public comment. And on this comp plan, this is a very, very big deal, because this will be the basis for all their radical crap that they want to do over the next 10 years. And we've got to stand up and we've got to give them the input.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I hate to say it, but we can't grow weary in well-doing.
No.
You can't let it go.
I'll give people this one last thing to think about, because you knew my late husband, Mario.
Yep.
He was born in Cuba. He fled Cuba. And he said, we have somewhere to go. He goes, if we don't fight things here, where are we going to go?
Yeah. From Cuba, he could go to the U.S. If we lose the U.S., then where's the next shining beacon on the hill? And that's
and even in America,
yeah,
there's a lot of places where freedom is gone.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. All right, Barbara. Well, thank you for calling in and joining us. We appreciate you sounding off today. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. That leaves the phone lines open, 319-527-3864. Some great phone calls this morning. I'd love to hear from you. Are you still fighting? Or have you thrown your hands up and walked away? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Are you on the verge? Sourdough Steel in the chat room has said, he said it. He said, I feel like, he said, I want to make sure that I get it right. I'm one of those people who are fed up and just want to leave. I do show up to vote and I'm engaged. The problem is no one will put up a candidate I actually want to support. Are you there? And what's it going to take to move the needle for you one way or the other? That's a question. 319-527-3864 is the phone number. We're going to be back with more. I got one more call on hold. And we'll return in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Tune in Friday for our weekend entertainment and movie streaming review with our guest critic, Willie Waffle. That's actually his real name. Really? That's his real name? Man, his parents must have hated him. The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, I got one line on hold. Let's go over there and see who it is so we can get the name and get it figured out here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Fairbanks.
Okay, what's your first name?
Ryan.
Okay, Ryan, hold the line. You're going to be first up when we get back here from the commercial break. You'll be number one in the queue. I'm just putting your name in here because honestly, I literally will forget between now and the time we get back to the radio because I have the brain power of a squirrel. So we're going to be back to Ryan here in just a minute. Ryan's calling from Fairbanks. All right, we'll be back to you in a second, Ryan. Let me go back over here to the comments and see what folks have been saying in the chat room. Lisa says, MD, do you have Ben's email? I do have Ben's email. You could also send him a message on Facebook and also on YouTube at the Oversight Live YouTube page. You can send him a message there as well. Sunday says they drop calls and change the agenda and people don't get to comment. And that's where you can cry foul on that. I mean, if they change the agenda without proper notice, you can file a complaint. You can file, whether it's APOC or with the state or whatever. If they drop calls, yeah, that's a problem. They can technically, we accidentally dropped the call. That's why I think being there in person is it's harder for them to drop your call when you're standing in front of them. Let me just put it that way. Kim says, exactly, Sunday, totally frustrated, done the whole 9 yards and then some, in one ear out the other. Nothing worse than getting dropped on an hour and 45-minute wait. I know. I'm with you. And yeah, it's a pain in the ass to have to go down there and stand or sit in the assembly chamber and listen to all the falderall before you get to your chance to have your say. But again, a little harder to hang up on you when you're sitting there in front of them. I'm just saying. Frank says, I'm engaged, but I am consistent in my ideology, so I learned how to beat and work the system. I mean, that's the thing. It's consistent, persistent effort. That's what it's about. That's what it takes to get there. Rob said the candidate fundraising reports have come out for state races, legislators, and governor. Money's important for two reasons. One, of course, it shows how much you'll be able to advertise and campaign, especially in the last couple months of that race. But it also shows what a candidate's level of support looks like. For the latter, though, don't just look at the total dollar figure. Look at how much is donations versus self-funding. Then look at how much the state or district versus out of state or district. Yes, it's an important thing. I was gonna get to this here in just a moment because there was a there's one big standout in the funding races as the APOC reports have come out, and Matt Hyalala has come out as the new leader. In fact, he set a new record for fundraising, reporting more than $1.36 million for running for governor. But what it doesn't show you, or what it does show you if you look deeper, I guess I should say, is that he only received $114,000 of that from donors. He's self-funding it to the tune of $1.25 million. Whew, he really wants to be governor, right? So that's a big deal. Treg Taylor has raised $880,000, but almost $300,000 of it came from himself. Shelley Hughes has raised $300,000 with $200,000 coming from herself. Now, Adam Crum, he's more small potatoes. He's raised $347,000 with only $60,000 coming from himself. Dave Bronson, $217,000, only $32,000 of his own money. But so don't just look at the raw numbers. You got to dive down into it and take a look at it. That's the thing. Cindy says, do I have enough time? I don't have enough time here, do I? Nope, we're down to it. You can read Cindy's comment there. Here we go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke show.
Okay, we're back. We're about to go back to the phone lines. Ryan's on the line from Fairbanks, 319-527-3864. Before we go to Ryan, though, real quick, Cindy just dropped a comment right before we came back from break that I think kind of typifies what we're hearing from people. She says, what hardworking individual has time to call in to testify? If the session was on the road system, would it really matter? She said, I'm feeling a bit negative today. I feel like we're the only ones on this normal Ferris wheel. I mean, I would say that it's a wild, mystical, magical Ferris wheel, and we're the only rational ones on it. But I feel you, Cindy. I hear you. Yes, we all feel that. You are not alone in feeling that way. It doesn't mean we can give up. All right, Ryan's in Fairbanks. Let's see what Ryan has to say this morning. Good morning, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, I'd like to talk about your agenda about trying to get people to engage more and stuff. I feel that sorting out some of these bad apple politicians and making it easier to get them out of office is the way to go, because voting doesn't seem to work, because they campaign for one thing and get it voted in, and then they do another that you don't agree with. And to me, if petitions should have more power. You should be able to get more signatures to get these bad apples out of the office and have new ones put in. For example, Lisa Murkowski, she's supposed to be a Republican, but she seems to be on the Democratic side on everything she votes on. And, if she wants to be a Democrat, that's fine. Get voted into that area instead of being able to be a Republican. But I think people are frustrated because they vote for these people that they campaign for a topic that they want to do, and they get it voted in, and they change their mind and do off things that are against what they campaign for. And I think that's a lot of the frustration with voters. And I feel that there should be an easier way to yard the bad apples out of the politics. Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not wrong. I mean, the question is, do we change the recall laws? Do we change the way that the recalls are done? But I mean, I agree with you. And I think part of the problem, and you can comment on this, Ryan, but I think part of the problem, as I've said for many years, is I think the Republican Party has a lot of blame to take on this. They should be, policing their own better. And instead, we got a complicit wink and a nod for many years on the whole Murkowski thing from the state Republican Party, when they should have been holding their candidates to a higher standard.
Yeah, and who's supposed to do that as far as the Republican politicians? Who's supposed to stand up and go against their constituents and like that to make this happen? The only thing I can think of is to try to keep, if petitions could be enough signatures could make a difference, you would probably have more people that would engage. I think. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I just can't think of an easier way to. The people need a bone to chew on, and if they're not given a bone, they just give up.
And I think there's a danger in that as well, because then you get the potential. I mean, there's a balancing act when we talk about petition or initiatives, because then there's a balancing act of, mob rule, right? I mean, we're a constitutional republic. We use a democratic style voting system. And so then there's a danger of, if we do everything by initiative or petition, then there's a chance for it to be mob rule. So there's a balance in there. But I think, again, of all the things you just talked about, and I agree with you on a lot of these things, but I'm saying the biggest problem is that the Republican Party never stood up and said, hey, you, out of the pool, you're not a Republican. We're not going to endorse you. We're not going to give you money. We still had the Republican Party in the state giving Lisa Murkowski money the year after she lost the primary and then ran a write-in campaign with the support of Democrats. She got the Democratic Party to drop their candidate, Scott Adams. And yet the Republican Party was like, oh, okay, all's forgiven. Here's some money. Here's our endorsement. Here's everything else. I mean, that should have been an immediate red flag that she's no longer part of the club. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so what is the answer to cure that? I guess you got to get Republicans in there that are willing to step up and do that type of thing. And if they're just allowed to stay in office and keep doing this thing, without the public being able to do anything about it, really, I mean.
Well, you need a Republican.
Just,
You need a Republican Party that will stand up and call out the bad plays, call out the fouls. And we've never had that. We've never had,
right. And so, it goes both ways, and they need to be exchanged and yarded out of there. They're called, to me, that's a bad apple, and
yeah.
If it's hard to get these people out of seat after they get in there, if it was made easier for the public to really have a way to deal with that situation, I think you'd have more people willing to do it. But they're frustrated because of what the politicians, like I say, they get in there, they campaign and they get voted in, and then they change their mind for whatever reason on an issue and vote the other way. And that's what frustrates a lot of the people, that,
yeah,
they get upset because I voted for this person, but then they change their mind after they were elected.
Right. Well, then they get political cover from the party for doing so, and there's no penalty. The censure does nothing. They still giving them money. They've still been the endorsed candidate. I mean, the party in the state needs new leadership, and it needs new leadership that is strong and will take a stand. That's what it needs.
Maybe the people should have a little more say on the Republicans giving their money out to these people or something.
Well, they do have a say. That's the thing, Ryan. They do have a say. You can be part of the Republican Party. You can be at the district level. You can go and run for leadership. It takes a strong leader to say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to give her any endorsement. She gets no money. She's censured. We're going to fight in court to have her remove her party affiliation from her name, and she'll have to run as an independent. And then if she wants to run as an independent, so be it.
So basically, you just ain't got the Republican Party to stand up and do these kind of things that need to be done.
Well, specifically in the Murkowski situation, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the party is not responsible for every ill in the state, but definitely for the Murkowski situation, if the party had stood up in 2010 after she lost the primary to Joe Miller and then started the write-in campaign with the help of the Democrats, this was not hidden. They got Scott Adams to bow out of the race, right? He was the Democratic poor guy. He was the Democratic candidate, and they threw him under the bus, got him to step out, and they came out and they endorsed Lisa. That, what should have happened immediately thereafter is that the Republican Party should have said, fine, you don't want to participate. You don't want to hear what the will of the party was, which was that you lost the primary, and you're going to do that. Then you are excommunicated. You are no longer part of it. This should have happened back in 2010. But instead, we had a bunch of mamby-pamby, middle-of-the-roaders who were friendly with Murkowski, who were afraid of offending, whatever this situation was. They should have said no. And if you have to take it to court to get her to remove the affiliation from her name or whatever it takes, that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Well, so if that kind of thing went on and happened, I think you would have more happy voters out there that are willing to, stand up and fight a little more. It's the only thing I can think of that is to try to make it to where it's easier for the voters to have more of a influence on what's going on and stuff. Because I think that's the only way you're going to get them to really budge and do anything more, because they're already been so frustrated over the years of stuff that,
well, and
they vote for something and then
I think you're bringing.
Go ahead.
I would say I think you're bringing up a valid point as to why you're seeing more people on the conservative side getting more frustrated and walking away than you do on the Democratic side. Not only is it a philosophical thing of the progressives are more communal, the conservatives are more rugged individualists. Not only do you have that, but on top of that, you've got a Republican Party that has been neutered essentially and done nothing but
sort of a lame duck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so you have that, so they feel like, well, what does it matter then? Because the party's not going to do anything. And maybe this is a wake-up call to stop looking at parties to fix the problem, and maybe we need to look at true independence. Maybe we need to look at people who aren't participating in that madness, who are not the faux independents of the of the DeWitts or Meta DeWitt or anybody like that who are really just Democrats that don't want to call themselves Democrats, but people who are true independents. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking for answers just like you are.
You know, there's got to be an answer to it somewhere out there to help the voters, making it appealing to them to want to be more involved. And I think the only way is to actually give them more power somehow to make it easier for them to have a say.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, you know, people are working real hard, you know, and trying to make a living and put food on the table, and prices keep climbing, and you know, they just lost enthusiasm to have any say. You know, they're more busy with their lives and taking care of their family, and
right. But
so
remember,
it's hard for them to engage.
But remember, Ryan, government is what happens to you when you stop paying attention. So if you just throw your hands up in the air and say, well, you know, I've got a job and I've got family and I've got kids and I've got all these things and I just don't have time.
So you got to live with it.
Yeah. And you got all this, you know, I just don't have time. Well, none of us, we're all living the same life. We're all living, you know, 9 to 5. We're all doing it.
Right.
Don't give me a lame ass excuse because you're tired of fighting the fight. Just admit that you're tired of fighting the fight and you're wimping out, right? Because we're all fighting that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to make an effort at least. Nobody's going to do it for you. You know, you're going to have to. And you know, I don't know. I was just trying to think of ways to encourage the voters to be able to have a little more power somehow, and making it easier for them to engage. It's the only thing I can think of off the bat here.
I you know what? You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's part of the problem, that the Murkowski situation is indicative of the whole problem, right? I mean, that's indicative of the whole problem.
Exactly, and that's why I brought it up, because to me, it's a prime example of, you know, why frustration exists, and because, you know, it's real obvious what she's been doing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway. Oh, yeah. No, I think to anybody. But again, going right back to what I was saying earlier, the minute that she basically completely disregarded what the party said in 2010, because that's what happened. There was a primary vote. She lost. She immediately pooped on everybody that had voted and said, your vote doesn't count. I'm going to run as a write-in candidate, and I'm going to solicit the help of this other party. That's when the party should have come down on her like a ton of bricks, and yet they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The Republican Party in this state is to blame for many of the, not all, but many of the woes. And it's because they haven't had a good, solid, strong leader since I've been an adult, essentially. And that's saying something.
You know, and like I say, therefore, somehow, if the voters can see that and have more of an influence somehow to make it, where, you know, the Republicans need to step up and do what they need to do, and they don't. That's just adding to the frustration of the voters.
It absolutely is. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate you calling in this morning and being part of it. Thank you for giving us your thoughts and bringing up the Murkowski thing too, because again, I think it is part of the problem for sure. Now, maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think that, or maybe you think I'm right. Why are you frustrated? Or why are your coworkers or your family members, why are they frustrated? What is the answer? I mean, I guess that's the biggest question here. What is the answer to fixing this? Now, maybe in part, it's changing what's going on in the Republican Party. Now, I'm not a Republican. I'm a libertarian. I've never been a member of the party, but I identify with them because they uphold the majority of my values. But one of the reasons why I never joined the Republican Party was because I could see what was going on inside that party. And it was a hot mess from when I first got involved, first started watching this, in politics at 25 years ago when I first started the show. I mean, guys, when I started the show, I was 21 years old. I was 21 years old, and I could see the problems that were already evident in that. So again, back to Sourdough Steel, who said he's a 30-something family man and doesn't know if anybody would vote for him. I started this show when I was 21 years old. And we got to do something. Right? Was I 21? 21? It's 31. No, it's 20. No, it's 31. Man, math is hard. Math is hard. 31 years old. Sorry, 31 years old. But I could already see the problems that were going on. Right? But what is the answer? 319-527-3864. Whew, man. Not mathing correctly. That's part of the problem. All right, we're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Whew, man. Math is hard. Let me go back up here to see what else you guys have been saying. Richie says, ooh, this is a book here. There is an answer. Voters need to make phone calls, send letters, emails, pay a visit to the Republican Party HQ here. The change starts with getting real and solid principled leadership. Alaskans are getting tired of hearing on national news that Lisa is always the one voting against every important piece of legislation like the SAVE Act. She is a joke and needs to be removed one way or the other. And again, the districts have tried. The districts have filed for censure. The districts have, I mean, they've put it up there. And what does the state party themselves do? The Central Committee? Nothing. Again, in 2012, when she absolutely spat in the face, or 2010 rather, when she absolutely spat in the face of voters that had voted her out and voted for Joe Miller, she spat in the face of voters and created a write-in campaign with the help of Democrats. That should have been the wake-up call for the Republican Party, but no, it didn't. Anna What's-Her-Face and all those guys, no, we couldn't. She's a Murkowski. That's a dynasty. We can't offend. We can't offend her. We'll just go along to get along. Now, Rob does make the point in the chat room. Where is Rob's comment here? I'm looking for Rob's comment because I saw it. And Rob says state law, Alaska law, does not allow a party to change any person's political affiliation, either for a regular vote or for a candidate. Well, then they should have made as much noise as they could have. Whether that was attempting to take it to court, whether it was running ads against her, that, her party affiliation is not true, that she's lying to you, whatever it is. I mean, whatever it takes. That's the thing. I have never claimed any party, says Lisa. My dad was lecturing me about it, and I was like, they are all like car salesmen. I'm not choosing. That's weird, because I don't want to pick a side. I mean, quite honestly, here's the thing. This is why I never became and I'm a libertarian, but I'm not a member. I'm a small L libertarian. I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party, right? I've never been a party member of any party. And the truth is because I don't play well with others. That's why. Because I'd get into something with somebody in some party or what, and I just want to punch somebody in the throat. Because there's some stupid people out there. Right? They can't see the forest through the trees. They're just, And yet a lot of those people end up in some kind of position of power. And I don't do well with that. And that's why I never became a member of a party, because there was never a party that, I mean, I guess maybe it was a purity test on my part. Maybe it was a purity test where I'm just like, I can't, nobody's pure enough. No party matches me exactly or what. I mean, maybe, I don't know. But more than anything, I know myself, and I know I'd get into a room with somebody and they'd be spouting off something stupid, and, it would not end well. Let's just put it that way. That's why I never joined a party. And that's why I never will, quite honestly. But again, I can identify with most of the things that the Republican Party has done, or has supposedly stands for. Not what they've done, but what they supposedly stand for. And I can see it. Maybe that makes it easier for me to be on the outside looking in. I can see what the problem is. The problem is that they have no balls. They have no intestinal fortitude. They don't stand up like they should have in 2010 and taken a switch to her verbally on the outside, saying, you can't do that. You just pissed on all these Republicans who voted for Joe Miller, and now you're saying that's not good enough. You're not going to abide by it, and you're going to go collaborate with the quote-unquote enemy, the other side, and get them to put you in there? You're dead to me. That's what should have happened. (319-527-3864) if you want to call. Barbara says, I wish I could call back. Barbara, you can call back again if you want. I'm not going to hold you. I mean, that's fine. Whatever. But this whole thing is just astonishing to watch. All right, here we go. We're jumping back into it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay. Wow. I got a little heated there during the break there. I may have used some language that was not appropriate. All right, we're back. We're going to continue on here. We've got a phone call on hold. It looks like, well, it is one of our favorite callers, Carlene, calling in from Kodiak. Let's see what Carlene has to say this morning. Good morning, Carlene. What's on your mind? Hello, Carlene. Are you with me? Oh, man. Okay, I just took her off hold, but she's not there for some reason. Carlene, I'm going to put you back on hold. I'll try one more time to bring you back onto the stage here. Can you hear me, Carlene? Okay, apparently not. All right. Well, unfortunately, Carlene can't hear me, so we're not going to take her call for this moment. But the phone lines are open at 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off, we'd love to hear what you have to say. And we'd love to hear, all the things that you want to talk about here. So sorry. Somebody was just congratulating me for saying the quiet part out loud, which I won't repeat on the radio, but it had to do with testicular fortitude and the Republican Party and the lack thereof. We're looking at this governor's race. 17 candidates. Now, the APOC report has come out, and we're starting to see where each candidate sits in the rundown for governor as far as fundraising, because a lot of people use that as an indicator of who's going to have the best chance and the best presence and others are going to be like, and the other part is you're going to see who has got kind of common support. So you look at the amount of money, that's going to tell you who's going to have the biggest presence, right? More money, more presence, more ads, more radio, more television, more internet. And then you look at the makeup of that money, and that tells you who has the support for what. Now, if you just looked at it in raw numbers, you'd probably be surprised, because the candidate who set the new record, the new financial benchmark, according to Suzanne Downing, for the governor's race is Dr. Matt Hailala. Now, many of you may not have heard of him. He has appeared on the program. He has been a guest on the program. I know Chris Story has had him as a guest. I know Dave Pruse up in Fairbanks, I think, has had him as a guest. So he's been around, and he was actually one of the earlier entrants to the race. But he set a new benchmark. He's reporting $1.36 million raised for the governor's race in his APOC reporting. But there's a big but here. How much of that is actually support that from outside? He shows $114,000 in contributions from donors, but $1.25 million in his war chest came from his own personal funds. Now, there's a guy that really wants a job. He spent $1.25 million, and he has indicated that he's willing to spend more as needed. He is likely the most self-funded gubernatorial contender in Alaska history. But he's not alone. Treg Taylor reportedly raised a total of $880,000, of which almost $300,000 came from himself. So still a significant amount. I mean, Treg Taylor's, he knows where all the bodies are buried. He knows the people, right? So he knows all the movers and shakers. So he's raised $500,000 outside of, his own contribution. That's pretty significant. Shelley Hughes raised $300,000 with about $200,000 coming from her own personal monies. This must be a great job. I mean, people are willing to spend tens of thousands, $1 million to get the job done. Adam Crum, in his first 90 days as a candidate, raised $347,000. Now, he only put in $60,000 of his own money. So, I mean, that's chicken feed. But I mean, compared to Dave Bronson, who's raised $217,000, Bronson and Church, they've only put in between the two of them, they've only put in $32,000 of personal money. But again, you look at the numbers, and so far, as you look at the numbers, it looks like, as far as fundraising goes, that Treg Taylor is actually ahead in the support race. Now, I noticed that Bernadette's numbers weren't in this article, and I didn't go look at the APOC numbers directly. I'll have to do that this week and go through and look at them. But it looks like Treg Taylor has got the highest amount of outside support based on dollar figures of $500,000 raised outside of his own money. Now, I don't have a breakdown as far as in-state versus out-of-state. That's the other thing you need to look at. How much of that money was raised in-state versus how much of it was raised out-of-state. See, this gets a little more complicated. And that's when people are like, this is why you have to vet your candidates. This is why you have to look at them. You have to look at where did the money come from? Who's contributing? Who's doing? This is also points out the major problem in this whole jungle primary thing, that when you've got, what do I say, 17 now? 17 candidates. You've got 17 candidates. there's only so much free money out there around there, free, loose, disposable, spendable money out there for these candidates to pick up. And so it's going to be much more difficult to fundraise in this type of environment because you're not down to just a handful of candidates in each party that's then going to be decided, because the general is where the bulk of that money is going to be spent. I guarantee you. So that's yet another problem with the whole ranked choice voting system and the jungle primary that it has brought with us as well. And so, yeah, is it good or is it bad that Halala, I apologize. Is it good or bad that Halala has poured $1.25 million into his own campaign? I mean, he's either very confident or he feels like he doesn't want to be bought, maybe, or I don't know what I haven't spoken to him about this, obviously, since then, but is that good or bad? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that Hayalala is about to spend, 5 or 6 years worth of gubernatorial salary just to get elected, or attempt to get elected in this case. I don't know. But these are numbers that we're going to have to get down into and take a look at. By the way, Nancy Dahlstrom is also she's only raised $18,000. I mean, is she serious about it? I don't know. Edna DeVries, under $11,000. I have questions. Why are you serious? Or, I mean, I'm just asking. All right, tomorrow on the show, Ben Carpenter and I believe George Rauscher. We'll see. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show. Okay. Yeah. Cindy says, yes, he's self-funded, but doesn't his income come from patients and health insurance? Well, yeah. But I mean, that's like saying Treg Taylor worked in government. Does that mean that all of his income was government money, so he's being funded by the government? I mean, there's a disconnect there, Cindy. I mean, there's a disconnect. Yeah, you can't say that he's not committed. And that's putting your money where your mouth is, says Chris. No, I mean, I agree. No, I'm not saying it's bad to put your money in. I'm just saying you really, really got to want it. And there must be some reasons. And I guarantee you when we get him back on the program, we'll ask him why. Why did he choose to go that way? I mean, that's I don't think that's a bad problem to have. It's an interesting choice, that's for sure. All right, yeah, no, we opened up the phone lines. We got a lot of great calls today. Miguel says thanks. Terry says it was a great freewheeling Wednesday. I mean, it was fun. I had a lot of things to talk about, but I love taking the phone calls more than anything else. I think it's a great way to play. All right, my friends, we got to go. Well, wait, Robert's on the phone here. Can we get Robert in real quick? Let's get Robert in real quick. Robert, what's on your mind?
Hey, Michael, Robert Wall calling. Good show today. I'm the District 8 chairman, and I wanted to just inform you that we have censured Murkowski. We did it about last spring, 2025, last spring.
Yep. And then, but my question, but what did it get you? Because the main party central committee did what with it? I mean, that's the problem, right?
Well, the rules, the Article 7, which was written 2 years ago, we're using, and so far we have 12 agreeing districts. We have to have 19 out of that. We have to have the majority of the 37 organized Republican committees. So we're lacking 7 more.
Well,
and that's so the Charlie Franz, who you talked to on your show today, he's a rules committee, and he's been receiving them and keeping me informed, the District 8 committee informed. So when the folks call in from Fairbanks, those committees up there are supposed to have processed this months ago.
Right.
So it's still lack of leadership from Carmella.
Yeah, no, I think it's lack of leadership from Carmella, and I think it's lack of leadership in those committees. What are you dragging your feet for? What are you dragging your feet for? Get it on there. So, well,
so we beat every time Ben and I see him at the SCC meetings. He's my bonus vote. We beat him up and talk to him, and Charlie does too. And so this next state convention in Soldotna, we're going to try to strengthen the rules so there's teeth in it. But the DA committee, I mean, I could spend an hour on your show going over it, but DA committee, I'll send you all the data if you text me your email you want me to send it to, all our documents if you'd like to look at them.
Yeah, just send it to me at michaeldukeshow.com, Robert, and we'll talk about it. I'd love to hear about it more. And you can find that on my website as well. But yeah, Robert, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed in Carmella. I'd heard she was going to be a little stronger, a little more strident, and unfortunately, it's been a disappointment, I think, for a lot of us. Robert, thank you for calling in. I'm glad we were able to get you in at the end there. We got to go, folks. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.